Hi guys, welcome to this week's video. Before we start, make sure to subscribe if you are not and give a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. So, I made it to McRitchie Reservoir, Singapore. Pretty wild this shit over here. So in 5 minutes I saw monkeys, a monitor lizard, and some polar bears now. Bunch of ants, and yeah, it's really cool. Finally, whole afternoon for myself. Wish me luck. Hi guys, welcome to a new video. This one is going to be a beginner video. I want to discuss 3 topics: why one should start ant keeping, and how to start ant keeping, and one should start ant keeping. Starting off with the why to start ant keeping, these are my own personal opinions and experiences. So first of all, I think it's a worldwide hobby, and what I mean by that is that you basically can find ants wherever you are. It doesn't matter. So I travel frequently around Asia. Normally I go to Thailand, sometimes go to Korea, Japan, Singapore, and whenever I'm in these places, I always take a day or two and I roam the forests and try to connect with the local keepers, try to find the best places where one can go anting. And this brings us to the second point. I feel like ant keeping is a real life Pokemon, Zelda, or Tamagotchi type of game where you can go trekking, exploring, and covering. You get the opportunity to catch your own Pokemon, your real life Pokemon, your ants, your ant queens. You can do this with friends, you can take pictures and do all sorts of exploration, and I think it's great. The third aspect I find it really important is that it can connect all ages. It's for parents and their kids, it's for adults, it's for teenagers, you name it. Anybody can do ant keeping, and it's great fun. Another reason why keeping ants is really interesting, it's because ants are social insects, and as such, they have all sorts of different behaviors. You can observe them cleaning, hunting, taking care of the brood, taking care of the queen, digging up their nest, landscaping the outworld, and so on. It's guaranteed that they will keep you occupied with loads of interesting behaviors and activity all day long. Another reason why I really like ant keeping, it's because all good things require effort. And ant keeping requires a lot of patience, dedication, love and attention to the ants. And for me, this makes the experience so much more intense. And when you succeed to achieve your goals with a queen or a colony, the feeling is just amazing. Another point is that ant keeping can be for any type of wallet. I mean, you don't need a lot of money to start ant keeping. Queens can be found in nature, and for the first basic setup, a test tube will suffice in most of the cases. Another reason why I think it's cool to start ant keeping, it's that ant keeping is not mainstream. And when you tell other people that you're keeping ants, the first reaction is like, what? You're keeping what? So you get all sorts of unexpected reactions from the other people. That's a great feeling for me, personally. And also, since it's not mainstream, the community is small, there is still a lot to discover, a lot of potential for growth. So I think it's a great feeling to be part of something that's not on its early stage, but is still reduced. And last but not least, I think ant keeping allows keepers to jump into other inverts, such as roaches, isopods, millipedes, spiders or tarantulas, and centipedes. I think they are a good introductory invert for larger specimens or other species. Since once you start doing ant keeping, sooner or later you'll have to start feeding your colonies with other insects. And to save some money, you'll also want to develop
some colonies of inverts like crickets or roaches, and I think that's also interesting. So moving on to the second part of the video, how to start ant keeping. I think you have 4 possible options. The first one being catching your own queen. The second and third would be buying a queen or a colony. And the fourth would be digging up a wild colony. So starting with the first option, catching your own queen. This is probably the one that gives you more trouble, but also it's the most rewarding. So first of all, you'll need to know how to identify a queen. And that can be difficult, because queens' shapes and sizes will vary according to their own species. But there are some overall general traits that you want to keep in mind when looking out for queens. So assuming that you already know how to more or less identify how a queen looks like, the following 2 questions are: where and when should one find a queen? So as a rule of thumb, ants have what's called nuptial flights. It's the time of year when the alates, the queens and the males, come out from their mother's nests and in a synchronized event take up into the skies to mate with other males and queens from other nests. Each different species has its own period, its own nuptial flight period, but general rule again, the nuptial flights start from the beginning of spring until the end of autumn. So during this period, especially after rains, this is when you want to start looking for your ant queens. So where should you find your queens? Well, just like the real life Pokemon, this will depend on each species. Each species occupies different habitats, and so different locations will give you access to different species. So after those heavy rains, you want to go out and you want to explore. You want to go near your residential area. You want to go to the gardens, some woodlands, forests, near rivers. Try different landscapes to see what type of different ants you can find. I would recommend that you do this from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Since the ants avoid the hottest periods of the day. In the beginning it will be a mix of luck and timing, but with experience and some homework you'll be able to increase your success rate. And I highly recommend that you keep a photo record of the places and the times and the periods of when you find those queens, because the cycle will repeat itself each year, so it's important for you to remember those events and those places. So you found yourself a queen, so the next step is how can you identify which species does it belong to? And here you need to do some networking. You need to connect with the ant keeping community, the existing ant keeping community, and access the information that exists in ant maps, Facebook, WhatsApp groups. And in the beginning it will be difficult for you to do this yourself, so you'll need the help of your peers. So I recommend that you join the local Facebook groups or Discord or other servers, because different species will have different types of foundation, and you want to identify the species in order to adjust the foundation type accordingly. Moving on to the second and third option, which was buying a queen or a small colony. This normally would save you a lot of time and effort in exchange of a small amount of money, because you won't need to go out searching for the queens yourself. You will be able immediately to get the identification of the species from the seller. And if you buy a small colony, your chances of success will be much higher. Of course, the bigger the colony, the more expensive it will be. But the decision is up to you, and there is no right or wrong choice here. I started ant keeping myself buying a small colony. By mere luck, I was going into a pet shop to buy some crickets to feed a mantis that I had caught. And when I was walking around the shop, I saw some tubes with what looked like ants inside. I got really excited. I called the staff and they told me that it was an ant queen, an ant colony for sale. And without knowing anything, I immediately picked them up. In retrospect, it was not a good decision. I didn't know at the time, but I had just picked up a exotic ant species, which is something that I want to call your attention to, since it's a possibility, but it has some consequences. It's probably illegal. The queens are more expensive and difficult to keep, since you will have to match the conditions of nest temperature and humidity from the exotic place. You may not be aware, but you may be getting a highly invasive species, and also buying these exotic species, you are indirectly supporting a potential shady activity. And finally, all of your networking will be totally different, because if you want to access information about that species in particular, you'll have to network in different groups, different communities, and access different references, and this makes your life a little bit more complicated. So you want to make sure that you find yourself a reliable seller and get the species list available. Do some research, make sure it's a local species first of all, and only after you feel confident, you should buy yourself the queen or colony. The final option would be to dig up a wild colony, but I would never recommend this to any beginner, as it is the most difficult, dangerous and hard-working and potentially damaging option. Nevertheless, depending on the species, sometimes it's the only way possible that you can obtain that species. And finally, to wrap up the video, when should you start ant keeping? Well, basically any time, but most of the people will tell you that the best time will be the one that matches the nuptial flights of your region, since you won't need to wait so long to find those queens. So guys, this is all for this week's video. It was a different type of video and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you didn't, please let me know in the comment section, because I want to start experimenting with different types of videos and see what is the reaction from all of you. So don't forget, like, but please give me a feedback. I really appreciate all your time and support. Thank you very much. See you on the next week.